Look, detect. Ladies and gentlemen, Hard to Kill, episode 201. We have the friend of the show, newly minted Lieutenant Colonel Nishan Campbell. How we doing, brother?
Nick, I'm well, brother. Good to talk to you again, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now let's go. Give us a quick resume for my listeners, real quick, that haven't seen your previous episode.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll do, yeah. So I left, I guess I'll start at the beginning. So 9/11 happened, 18 years old. 9/12, I was standing in line with everybody else at the recruiting station. I had about a year of college under my belt, and the recruiter sent me away and said, "No, go finish college. There's a there's a lot of dudes here. I'm not taking your application today." It was actually pretty cool. There were about I probably stood in line for 2 hours before I got to talk to a recruiter. Went to college, finished my undergrad, jumped into I worked for CBS Broadcasting, my first real job at a school. So I was in mass media for almost 5 years, and couldn't shake the itch to go be a Marine. And so I walked down the recruiting station again, same recruiting station, ironically enough,
Yeah.
and talked to an OSO, and I was kind of off to the races. Went to OCS in late 2007, got hurt, had to go back.
Wow.
Uh, 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 yeah, I had a partially torn a couple of ligaments in the knee. Yeah, I
Oh,
ended up not being surgical, thankfully, so I was able to get back within about 6 months. Got back, I commissioned in 2008. Moved the young family at the time. I think my son was about almost a year old at that time, my first son. Moved to Quantico, did the TBS thing with the family there, and then made the big move to my first duty station, which was the 3rd Assault Infantry Battalion in Camp Delmar, 21 area, and had a great tour as a lieutenant there, platoon commander, deployed with. I did a float called the LF Karat float, which is like a Mu like a little Mu extension, part of the 31st Mu on the out at 3MEF.
yep, yep.
Great time. We splashed a lot, got the old girls in the water a whole lot, and did a lot of good work. Ended up going to Korea. We ended up touching 7 different countries on that deployment.
Oh, wow.
So we were busy. It was not a booze cruise by any means. We were very busy, and yeah, from there came back to third tracks, company XO. Did that no fun time.
Yeah.
Got told I was going to be the battalion opso as a lieutenant. So that was super fun, getting yelled at by captains and majors. My boss, though, Colonel Hall, was very gracious and always was willing to say, "Hey, which captain or major was giving you a hard time? Yeah, I'll send them up to my office."
I'll go humble him real quick.
Yep, yep. I had a master guns that didn't play, which was great. So he'd go hem up the company ops chief, and learned the hard way on how to not handle business. And that actually was the determining factor why I didn't stay in the Marine Corps. Is
Really?
I worked with so many officers, company grade officers and some field grade officers, that I was like, man, I do not want to be that guy.
Now,
And
articulate a little bit that real quick, because I talked about that on a previous podcast. When we talk about that guy, I mean, are we talking about the cliche, by the book, cardboard cutout of, the demographic that you don't want to be, or is it? What would you call that guy for? Because we talk about enlisted a lot too. Maybe I don't know. How would you describe it?
yeah, I don't think it's that guy. So it's those guys, like, you know what you're getting, right? It's like, hey, they're super by the books. They're very, 1 + 1 always equals 2. Like, you know how to deal with those
Yep.
personalities. Kind of like that super squared away first
That's what I
sergeant. Like, you
mean.
know
That's
how to
what I
deal
mean.
with that
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah. Just give him what he
No,
wants. Yeah.
the officers I'm talking about are the guys that were just so in it for them. They would spend more time, looking through their SRB or their MOL, ribbon stack, or who was doing what was next. It was like, man, you're spending the majority of your career thinking about your next career step instead of actually doing your job in the day. And I had a company commander at the time that, I mean, it was like every day. It was like that was half of his day, was just what was going to be the next thing. And it wasn't like he was super intelligent or highly political. It was just that's what you did. And
Yep.
so, I'd see that, and then I'd go to like division staff meetings because the assault amphibian battalions, they all work directly for division. Even right now in the reserves, it's the same way. We don't have a regiment between us and division, so I had to go to the division meetings and be in there with these disgruntled majors that just, they hated their life. You could just tell it was like, which PowerPoint do I got to work on next, and that grind of like they had sold their soul to, or
Yep.
they had made their, I wouldn't say sold their soul, but they'd made that professional
Yep.
decision that they
Yep.
were a company man now.
Yep.
And some guys were, but I would say it's not all, but there was enough where I was like, man, I do not want to be that dude.
I hear you completely. And it's funny you say that because on a previous podcast, we brought up kind of the ribbon chaser mentality and how, some guys, that's all they're focused on, and it takes the attention away from the wrong things. It takes attention away from the troops and the team element. And we talked about, maybe does that incentivize the wrong things in the Marine Corps? Do you know what I mean? Like taking away ribbons, or don't get me wrong, we all love a nice little shiny stack on the uniform and busting it.
Yeah,
But that whole concept of maybe taking, and I know that's a wild leap, but trying to incentivize other things. Like
yeah.
instead just because you do exactly, well articulated, well said. I mean, you see that a lot in the Marine Corps. Guys just focused on, puffing up the resume, puffing up the jacket a little bit, and it takes attention away from the wrong things. So, I mean, this is a broad topic, and we're just speculating right now. But I mean, maybe in a perfect world where we got our perfect Marine Corps that we got to fix, you know what I mean? Like, could that be something that would be beneficial? You think? I don't know.
I heard a full bird colonel. I won't say his name, but he made a strong argument, and it was a passionate one. And man, he was all about it. Just that we should eliminate personal awards altogether, and then that would save. It was both what we're talking about, but also the administrative side, which I see now as a battalion XO, is it takes a ton of time.
Absolutely.
Uh, so to eliminate, and obviously institutionally, we'll probably never go away from that. But it's an interesting concept to play with and
Sure.
go,
Sure.
but I love, I beat up my company commanders all the time, like be writing awards for your guys all the time, and we can improve, NAMs at our level and below. So like, there's no reason why your guys can get recognized for their hard work. But at the same time, you start to look at some awards and go like, really? Okay, it sounds like he did his job,
Right? Yeah, no shit.
but if you think he's worthy, like let's let the
And,
board
I
decide.
understand the argument of you needing to incentivize the guys. You know what I mean? You
Yep.
want to be able to, give them, the back rub in the right areas. But I mean, maybe put it towards different things. Maybe putting towards more leadership principles and accomplishing goals as a team oriented task, or I don't even know. I mean, but
I mean,
trying.
what would you have preferred? I mean, if you're like, hey, I did this thing, I went above and beyond my job. I mean, you felt good, right? You stand in front of the platoon or the
Absolutely,
company
absolutely.
formation, and it's like they call your name and they're pinning a medal on your chest.
I mean, I don't get me wrong, everyone loves that, but I think almost if we put it towards maybe giving guys more responsibility, beefing up their billet a little bit, and giving them, because whenever something I've always as a young NCO, whenever I had like maybe like a like that typical turd or that typical person that was a problem in my team or something, instead of like doing the typical my time, Hayes Fest, or rip them a new one. I would always try to like offer responsibility, even if it was just like a bullshit thing, but try to give him something to like put his energy towards. And sometimes it would work, man. And when I see little things like that work, I just think objectively towards other things. But I mean, once again, we're just speculating, but it's something interesting to, it's an interesting topic to think about for sure.
Yeah,
But
I like you said, like increase ability, give them responsibility. I tell the guys all the time, if your guys are bored, and I'm using guys universally, right? We've got females in our unit. I'm not that many. I mean, we're a Victor unit, but at the end of the day, we integrated females, and it's I don't know how many we have in the battalion. Probably less than 20. In a battalion of 1,500. So it's not a lot, but I use guys universally. But if your guys are say if you walk around your HTC or your drill center, and they're on their phones. Like then we're probably like that's not their fault.
no,
They're
that,
filling up the time. And so to me, what I preach to these, and try to beat in the company commander's heads is like, in the platoon commanders too, is give your guys something hard to do. We want a mission as Marines, and that's why we joined the Marine Corps, not the Army. And I'll talk shit a little bit, not the Navy, not
that's
the Air Force. we want the hard thing, but then when we get into the fleet, sometimes, and it's just kind of groupthink, we're like, we just want to chill today or do whatever. And so to me, it's just like if you're looking and the guys are on their phones and they're in the hallways and it's 1400 or whatever, we failed. Like the leadership failed. We should have had something hard and difficult from the work. Why aren't we doing night ops? Why aren't we doing room clearing with nods? Why aren't we doing, why aren't we out there working on defense in depth? And
Yep.
one of my company commanders just recently, our headquarters company commander, great guy. He took that to heart. The last time I went out, he had, I was so proud of the Marines were getting challenged. He had a comm section at three different sites, not one at the HTC and then two remote, like one on one base and one like not on a base, like on an island somewhere. And they were like, they had dug in, they were working
Same.
on defense in
Exactly.
depth, they
Yep.
were doing comm checks, they were working on an EAVO plan, which is what is important to the battalion now. But these weren't grunts, these were comm operators and techs.
Doesn't
But
matter. Yeah.
they came back. I remember them coming back and they were beat up, eaten up by mosquitoes, and they hadn't slept all night, but they had done something hard. And there was a different look on them than there was, another platoon or another
Back.
section that didn't. So
Feeling of accomplishment.
I'm with you, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear that. I hate to point fingers, but that does come directly on down on the young leaders, the young NCOs, and it requires a form of sacrifice on their end to now maybe use some of their free time or maybe use some of their, where they'd be chilling, you know what I mean? To take their time to maybe find different avenues to, give that training because I think we all know we fall on the Thursday, Fridays where it's, 1400, 1500, and you get that lull in the day and exactly what you're talking about where everyone's just sitting around not doing anything. And, it's times like that where not to sound corny, but the hip pocket classes, that the young
Yeah.
kick, stuff like that. I mean, that's beneficial for young Marines and it goes a long way with the guys. And exactly what you just said. I mean, these kids weren't grunts or anything, but they went out and they dug in and they actually probably had a feeling of accomplishment to a certain degree. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I walked on one guy's position and he had set up he'd working on his fire plan sketch and I jumped in his little fighting hole and I'm like, all right, cool. What do you think about this? What do you think of that? And we were just bantering back. I'm battalion XO, man. What do I know? Like this kid's the one that can be in the fight. And then, he's like, well, I'm thinking that they could come from here. And I'm like, cool. Do you think they could cross this waterway? And what kind of threat are you thinking? And it's just a
Throwing
fun
different shit at them.
conversation.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Cool. That's definitely a cool topic to think of. Now, I'm gonna push this something else at you with this. Now, I was gonna ask you when it comes to a good teacher. What comes to mind when you hear that? Because we were discussing this on another episode. How I had brought this up actually. How I had a period where I had a lot of shitty NCOs and just shitty instructors, and then I finally had a really really good one, and he like broke through to me and he explained it in the way that I needed to hear it, and learning had occurred actually when it hadn't, and for a long
Yeah.
time. Can you give me an example of maybe when you in your career just have an example of a good teacher that got through to you that maybe motivated you to implement that in your game a little bit?
Yeah, I don't have a specific teacher per se, but this is something that we talk about both on my civilian career side and the Marine Corps, which is that two-way communication piece. So, a really effective teacher is able to really communicate back to himself that he's being received well. And I bet you the guy that you're talking about, he knew he was getting through to you because he
Did.
had figured out that, and he stayed in that lane. I do have a great story though. So this is but kind of learned most of my stuff from the negative, and I think most of us
Oh,
do too.
absolutely.
Like this is what you
Absolutely.
don't do. Like you said, hey, you had some bad NCOs that
Yep.
didn't teach it.
There's
I
always a
was
silver lining.
just
Yep.
I was just in a course. I'm not going to say the name of the organization or the guy that's doing it because at some point he's going to get called out. But I had to go through a 2 day train the trainer course for the business, which was, hey, we're certified to teach concealed weapons as instructors to teach other instructors. And I've been dragging my feet to do this course for a long time because it was just, I knew what it was going to be. And, plain clothes, this is again, civilian stuff. So I'm at the facility and the instructor comes in and what he did wrong immediately and then carried on for the next 48 hours about was it was all about him.
Oh no.
Every single story went back to how cool he was. And I can't because this guy's gonna get dimed out. But I was sitting there biting my tongue until it bled, where he was everything was about a cool guy. Like, oh, when I went downrange with the cool guys and use stuff like that, downrange, cool guy. I could go on and on and on about, you know,
That's just played
this
out.
guy never served in the military uniform, granted, right? So this is even more fun, right? So here I am, about to be lieutenant colonel, and I am just like, I just need this piece of paper so I can give it to the company, and then they can go give it to the state, and then all my trainers can go teach the stupid class, right? And I had to bear 2 days of this guy telling stories about
Oh my
himself,
God.
telling other people's stories, which is almost worse when
It is
someone starts
worse.
telling someone else's
Yeah.
stories
Yeah.
because he's full of shit.
Facts. Facts.
And then they are always the hero or always the cool guy.
Yep.
Instead of being real, I bet you that NCO was real with you. I'm like, man, I fucked this up.
That's what
You
connected
know,
with me. That's what connected with me.
See, and he read that and he's like, hey, this guy actually understands this. And so, man, you want to talk about an effective teacher, someone that understands two-way communication. They don't make it about themselves, but I'm going to caveat, you got to be interesting.
Yes.
So if you're a total,
You got to make that connection somehow. Yeah,
got to
absolutely.
make that connection. And then you got to be passionate about what you're talking about. If you don't have those three things, it's gonna be a dud at some point. So
Absolutely. Well said.
yeah,
Well said.
yeah.
Now, you might be able to dime in on this a little bit too, because it's something I'm going through right now. So I'm a supervisor in the company that I'm working for right now, and we have like SOs under me, security officers, and we have different sites, and it's basically like standing fire watch on different posts, and then a couple
Okay.
other posts are like scanning IDs at casinos. But you know, it can be monotonous. It can be that same thing all the time, and it's not that some of the posts aren't that interesting, and you're late night and it's just you. And these are young kids, and some of them aren't military. How would you recommend on the civilian side that I best got through to them? Because the way I'm thinking trying to implement a chain of command structure into the company that I'm with right now, and trying to get like an NCO type person over the security officers to try to like, because to me it's they're not incentivized enough. They're not getting someone because they're feeling like just a number. They're feeling like, maybe this is just a useless job and I'm not going to go anywhere. But if you had someone that like stayed on you, if knew your pros, your cons, knew something maybe you wanted, maybe did a little something to help you at the job, I think that would make them want to do the job a little bit more. Because I mean, think about it. How do you incentivize that on the civilian side when you're in like kind of like a normal job? You being from gunfighter? I mean, how would you weigh in on that a little bit? I know that's kind of a long-winded question.
I'll talk a little shit. So the difference between that job and the job that my frontline guys do are very different. Like my front guys, like they have a blast.
Gotcha.
Like there's a rare time where they're like, my job sucks because I'm loading magazines. Like they're shooting with
Understood.
international tourists. But I think you're already thinking down the right path because you're trying to give them, and I'll fast forward. You're trying to give them a little bit of a why, right?
It's always the why.
So, do you like having a supervisor that's over you, at any point in time that's
Just
constantly telling you
belittling,
what you're doing
just
good and what you're doing?
belittling.
Well,
Yeah.
no, 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 both. Both. Someone that's stroking your ego and giving you, do you like that?
No.
Like, I don't. Like, typically, I know if I'm doing well and I know if I'm
Always do.
fucking up.
Exactly.
Okay. But in that job where it's monotonous and it doesn't seem, important to what they're doing, I think the most important thing is to call it out. Hey,
Absolutely.
guys, I
Make
get
it
it.
known. Make it known. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is our job though. Okay, cool. We can all accept the fact that this job sucks.
Mhm.
What I do really isn't that important, or what I don't perceive as really important. And then try to get them to come up with their why. Because if you shove it down their throats, like you're not going to get there.
Exactly.
And that and that's where that NCO isms don't work. Because like as a good NCO, like you will believe this
Yeah.
motherfucker. And so,
Yeah.
right? Like you will believe.
This is
But
gonna happen. Yeah.
yep,
Yeah. Okay.
but not in this situation. So I don't know how you do that in that, let's say you're standing security, you're checking IDs. I mean, we'd have to like war game this a little bit, but I
Me,
think if you could
honestly,
get
because
them to a place
I've
to
stood
do it.
I've stood these posts before, dude, and
Yeah.
I understood, yeah, maybe this isn't the most interesting job to me. I wanted to move up, so I made it like a game. I made it like I kept it interesting somehow. I talked to the people that were coming through a little bit. I got to know them a little bit. I didn't just think of the negatives. I knew that I wanted to progress in this job, And I knew to do that, I would have to do the best of my ability, whether it's an interesting post or if it's a, it's a shitty post, because no matter what, if you're doing your job well, it gets noticed by the right people. It's always usually.
Then to me, it's a carrot. So you telling your story and say, this is where I wanted to get. And we all know that the frontline guy is not going to be the frontline guy for 15 years, you know? And maybe it's you telling that story. And then it's just a back and forth. But it all depends on the person because,
It does.
you could be sitting in that job going, yeah, I'm working time for 3 months and then I'm moving. Or, you know what I mean? And
I hear you. I hear you.
that's where everything I think we do as leaders has to be individualized. The second we throw a box thing, I hate it. You hate it. Like we don't
Yeah.
want to be shoved into a box. Like it needs to be something that I believe in. And so I don't know. You found your carrot, but it may be not be different. It may be different for every single guy. And I mean, there are some guys that are frontline guys forever, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they've found their own way to get through that
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
mental jungle.
Yeah, I
You
hear
know.
that. So tell us what point in so are you still are you active reserve right now, or are you completely separated?
Yeah, so I'm in the SMCR. So in the reserves, there is an active reserve component, but those guys would be no different than you would see an active duty guy. They wear the uniform every day. They do their job. I'm in the SMCR, Selective Marine Corps Reserves, and then we have another component. We have two more components in the reserves. So you have active reserve, AR. Those guys go to the office every day. They're in a full-time billet. Then you have SMCR, which is what I do, which is you drill 1 weekend a month, 2 weekends a year, roughly. And then you have IMA, individual mobile augmentees, and those guys do like really specialized things. Like I'm going to bring you on orders to just teach a machine gun class for 4 weeks. That's your thing for the year. And then you have the IRR, which is all of us went into after active duty, where you don't do anything. You
Yeah,
might go to a muster.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're lucky, you'll go to a muster, you get paid for half a day, and you show up and talk shit, and it's all good.
Well, regardless, I mean, for you, I mean, being a newly minted lieutenant colonel, interesting time to be in, man. I mean, a lot of things going on in the world. I mean, how does that affect you? At your position, does anything come full circle, or are you guys, I mean, talk to me as a young
Yeah.
officer. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of say, look, I'm in mid-level management now. Uh, by no mean am I a senior dude, and I'm not at the company level anymore. But I don't think it changes. The only thing that's interesting now is you and I serve on active duty around the same time frame. What year did you get out?
2014,
Oh, okay. What's that? What year did you come in?
2000, early 2000, or late 2007.
Okay, so yeah, you did essentially two enlistments.
Yep.
So you and I were in during like the hot and heavy, well, not hot and heavy, but I would say like we're starting to trend down on the war, right? That was both Iraq and Afghanistan were starting to come down because I was 2007 to 2012 active duty,
Gotcha.
excuse me. And so we lived that time, wartime. And then ever since then, it's just been, we've had, tiny little things that have, little things that have popped up here and there. But but grand scheme of things, there were no units deploying besides deployment program or you're on a MU rotation, which is really, I thought, done a great thing for the Marine Corps because it refocused on what we do.
Mm,
Because why the Marine Corps exists really is that MU element. We're the 30-day element. We're the shock troops that come in and we take care of the situation in order to allow follow-on forces, aka Big Army, to come in. But we lost sight of that during the OIF, OEF days because we had to. Our mission changed.
right.
But as a service, we were an expeditionary element. And so it's forced us to go back to that. But now that we're seeing more world conflict pop up, excuse me, um, we don't have a mission yet, but we're still training the same way. So, whether we were in wartime, all this peacetime, and then the world is in a little bit of chaos, we're still training the same way. We're still doing hard things every day, every night. We're planning challenging things. We're adapting to the current fight. I mean, we've got both SOI East and West, I believe, working on anti counter drone issues and drone capabilities. So we're learning. Hey, that's just is this just mortars, just more precise? How do we deal with it? How do we use it to our advantage? So we're adapting to the current threat. But what's changed? I mean, nothing. We're devil dogs, and I love that.
I love to
It's
hear that.
because
Hear that.
because we don't want. I mean, we don't want any situation is to say, oh, we need to mold into that. No, man, we're still we're devil dogs at the end of the day. Like we are breaking case of war, and we're the glass. They're waiting
Shucks.
for it to happen.
Absolutely.
So
I hear
yeah.
that. I hear that's interesting you to say, man, because being from the time that we were in, I mean, I'm out now. So I haven't been able to see it. In the back of my head, I mean, I was talking to a bunch of, shooters that we always think that, it's a different kind of Marine Corps now. It's a different, would you, maybe not a different type of Marine Corps or a different type of Marine that's in it because of the generation that we're in. But would you say that, your confidence is high with the Marine Corps' capabilities right now to, fucking dig in and destroy no matter what?
Hey, Nick, no Kool-Aid. You're gonna get no Kool-Aid from me on this. I hope we're at that. But the only difference between the time you and I were on active duty and the Marines now is their stack has gotten smaller. That's the only difference. And you know what I say? Bullshit. Who cares if their stack is smaller? You're telling me that the guys that were part of the initial invasion and they all had three ribbons, right? And they came back and they're stacks now, but they went with the same perspective as
Right,
our guys do now. So
right.
I love that about the Marine Corps. We're not no, we're not changing. We are a force in readiness, waiting for the next conflict, the next time our nation says go do this thing. And all of our guys that are on the Muse right now, they're forward deployed, waiting for that thing to happen. They're the closest thing to the closest item to asset to that situation.
Yeah.
Man, we should be always thinking that's where we're going to get put next. And we do individual mobilizations all the time where we're like, hey, I'm going to go send these four dudes to go this mission and these, eight dudes to go this mission. And that's what we're training for.
Yeah.
So no, man, it has not changed. That is the only thing that has changed. The stack has gotten smaller, but who gives a shit?
No, I
I
hear
don't
you.
care.
I get that completely. I get that
Yeah.
completely. You know, being able to look at this from the outside in, I mean, with Ukraine going on, how it is interesting to just see how combat has evolved. And when I say interesting, scary to a certain degree, man. It's not the same GWAT ground pounder, house to house, thing that we're used to. It's this drone warfare is really changing capabilities for. I mean, when it comes to logistics, when it comes to, I mean, when you have $100 piece of plastic taking out a multi-million-dollar helicopter, I mean, what's going on with combat? I mean, it's coming to a point where AI is being ingratiated into every aspect of it. So, I mean, does that excite you or does it scare you, man? I mean, staying with how combat is evolving is definitely a tricky task. And as Marines, improvise, adapt, overcome, obviously at all times. But the whole drone out and seeing Ukraine, I mean, these guys are using modern day weaponry with trench warfare, bro. Like just seeing how that's banging out right now. I mean, how do you look at that from your perspective?
So I actually disagree with you, and I love having this
Please,
discussion
please.
because I'm in the minority here, even in my peer group where I disagree. I say, look, warfare hasn't changed, even with the drone kit. But think about maneuver warfare. Maneuver warfare is really simple. I am gonna set up some sort of support by fire position, and I'm gonna try to get you to keep your head down while my maneuver element goes
Yep,
around
yep.
and kills you. Like that has not changed. The very fundamental of war has not changed. And I like to look at drones as an indirect fire asset.
Mhm.
Really just simplify it. What's the difference? And there is a difference, but let's think about this. What's the difference between a a company of grunts that that has 60 millimeters or 81s attached to it, and they've got a really, really good FO, and that FO is directing those 60s and those 81s on the position. What's the difference between that indirect fire and direct fire from a drone that's coming from the air?
I'm thinking just aerial advantage, maybe being able to screen more, possibly. But I hear you. If you have just a good to go FO, I mean, I see your point. I can understand that, and I can.
It's more I would argue it's more precise. That's the difference. Is they're able to remove that element of risk from your FO by having a guy that is several miles away now instead of, maybe half a click. And your motor team, it takes more effort in logistics to get that mortar team in place and get three tubes up or two tubes up,
Yeah,
depending on what
yeah,
we're working with, and have more accurate, suppression on that target. So I would say that is the difference. But really, when we're talking about remote warfare, it's scarier because it's a little more intimate. It's scarier because I think there's the element of a camera that
That's
can
what I was
view
just
your
gonna
last
say. It's scary
moment.
because finally we're seeing it. You know what I mean? On a
Yeah. But
basis
what's the
that
difference if we put a camera on an 81
facts.
millimeter mortar
Same thing. Same thing. I
and
hear
it's
you.
still coming down on some dude's head?
Yeah, that could be the difference, man. Honestly, because think about it. When we were in, cameras were so taboo. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it just they weren't there. I mean, they wasn't allowed. And now they're everywhere. So you're actually seeing it. And I didn't look at it from that perspective. That's a cool way to look at it. And I think
You
you're
know, you know what else is really interesting is one of the most effective ways they've dealt with drones is with shotguns.
I saw that. I've seen
And
this.
I fucking love that
Yeah, I do
because
too.
like if there was one shooting discipline that I could do, and that's the only shooting discipline that I could do, it would be trap and skeet. I love shooting
What do you
shotguns.
think? What do you think? What do you think of max effective distance on, a shotgun for a drone?
They're saying 80 yards right now, 80 to 100 with T-shot, which is something that we would shoot geese with, essentially, probably triple BB maybe, but I still, I mean, 100, 80 yards, 70 yards, man, that thing, depending on what explosives on the end of it. I mean, it's getting rough, but think about it. Like,
Yeah, I know.
yeah, we're back in trench warfare and we're back with shotguns in the trenches. We're just not shooting a dude in the face. We're shooting a
Yeah.
drone.
Yep, that's true. And right now, drones really aren't at the point. And we're at a stage where it's everything's new still. It's just been ingratiated into combat, and I don't think they've. I mean, don't get me wrong, they've been extremely effective with certain things, but they haven't perfected what to utilize them for,
Yeah.
most effectively at this point. And because right now, what really do they have for weapons with drones? Other than being a observing element. I mean, really all they can do is just either be a suicide drone or drop ordnance from up in the air.
Yep.
Correct? We're not at the
Right.
point where we're targeting and shooting with a drone yet.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But with AI, I mean, I can see that being a very real thing where you can have a drone that has a specific mission and it can adjust it as it's moving. But again, the asymmetrical warfare, we're still dealing with the same problem set. And so I think as we adapt to a new threat, just like we adapted in World War I to machine guns, right? All of a sudden, horses are out.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Horses are out. Well, now we're dealing with this big iron horse thing that's rolling through, and it's got a machine gun attachment. And the big the infancy of a mechanized platform, was established and really tested during trench warfare in World War I, and we perfected it obviously over
Yeah, of
time.
course, of course.
So, but has that changed maneuver warfare? I
No,
mean, it's an honest question.
I mean, same thing. I mean, same thing could be said about, the GWAT and IEDs. I mean, that was something that we had to, get used to that we probably weren't. I mean, I know damn well the training that I got for IEDs was not enough for what we face over there because we really hadn't seen it to
Yeah.
that, scale yet. And but still, I mean, you go over there and you get used to it, and then the guys communicate, and then all of a sudden we're training for a way to be effective with it. So I hear your side completely.
I heard a civilian. He's an attorney friend of mine. He's an older gentleman. He's probably in his late 70s. Super, just a great human being, highly intelligent. But he said, Nishan, he goes, you know how we could have stopped the IEDs in Iraq? And I, kind of giggle, because it's coming from a guy that never wore a uniform, but very well intended. And I said, no, Mike, like what? He goes, if we would have paved the whole country. He goes, and they couldn't have dug them in.
That's true. I
And
mean,
I giggled like you because I was like, well, Mike, then instead of digging them in, they would have put them on the side of the road in trash,
yeah,
right? Or they would have loitered them somewhere like, in a building, and it would have been a shape charge going on. I said,
exactly.
yeah, it would have stopped that tactic, but the concept of an ambush did never change. But his argument, which I really like, he said, well, that's one aspect of what would have made that war go quicker. He says the other aspect would have happened if we paved the whole country is tribalism would have ceased to exist.
That's interesting.
And that actually makes more sense to me because, and this would make more sense in Afghanistan and Iraq, but you would be able to take these if tribalism no longer existed and they all were kind of one big happy family now, boy, and I don't know which direction it would have gone, but there would have been a massive change.
Yeah, it would have. It would
Yeah.
have definitely affected it in a different way. That's for sure. And something. But still, look at Afghanistan now, man. I mean, a lot of guys, such as myself. I mean, what was accomplished? I mean, now look, the Taliban's completely taken over, and I mean, who we can point at politics, bad administrations. We can point at bad leadership, but I mean, what can we what would you take away from the GWAT era as a positive? What can we take away as maybe something that we learned from that? And I know
Oh,
that's
yeah, Nick, I can't get into the politics side of it, but I'll tell you, like, what did we learn from it as an institution? And we learned a shit ton. Like, you learned a ton. Every dude, and I did not go to Afghanistan or Iraq. Like, I did not. I was, again,
oh,
I was an amphibious assault guy. I would have loved to have gone, but I did not get the opportunity to. But I think what we took away from those wars was so much more than just, hey, I'm going to throw a snowball and you're going to go around and throw a snowball. That's not what happened. I mean, we learned how to take the Marine Corps from an expeditionary mindset and make us more of a land-based element where we're extended. We did something that we didn't normally do. I mean, for the good or for the bad, I mean, I don't know. We learned how to do logistics at a rapid rate. And I think now we're starting to take some of those lessons when we start talking about sustaining our forces on small islands. we're
which
not talking about we're not talking about 2 pallets of MREs and water. We're talking about how can we take the food that the locals have or are growing and turn that into something that we can
yep,
consume.
yep.
So I think, like, that whole, okay, great, I can't just rip open an MRE now because I only have enough MREs for 3 days. So my guys got to monitor sensors here and guard these sensors for how long? I mean, I don't know. So we're starting to look at stuff that way now. So I think that expeditionary mindset, the fact that we were that stay on force, got it, we did it, but now we're starting to think about, hey, what did you all do when you were on fobs and you were making showers out of huts and
Yep,
you were doing,
yep.
all that shit. I think, yeah, the political end states, like, that's not anything you and I can
No, I
affect.
hear you. I hear you.
We've got our lane, and so, not trying to dodge your question, it's just, there was a lot that was learned, yes. Gained, that's
Yeah.
not a question that we can answer.
I hear that. I hear that.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
actually, to piggyback off that, now going now focusing on a Marine Corps of today, something you just said was interesting because something that I think is the most important thing that we need to be focused on is logistics. Logistics, meaning, I mean, where are we really pointed now as a big Marine Corps? It's looking at Taiwan. It's looking at like that island hopping type of mentality, which is going to change training, and it's going to change what we need to focus on because the biggest thing over there is what trying to get fuel to locate. I mean, being a mobile gas station essentially is what needs to be entertained, and logistics is big. And when it comes to logistics, I know a few guys in the MOS, and a lot of them say like where we're at right now, logistics is at a difficult point because a lot of guys are getting out and realizing they can get paid big bucks for the stuff that they know, and logistics being so important. I mean, what would that's just my opinion now. What would you think a Marine Corps of today should be focused on with a direction of maybe China Taiwan type situation?
It's a big question, man. The I heard a phrase, I didn't come up with it. Someone told me this one time, and I think it makes perfect sense, which is, amateurs talk about tactics, professionals talk about logistics, because
Mm,
logistics wins wars. And coming from the AAV side of the house, where we're a heavy logistics element. I mean, it takes a lot for us and tanks and LER to go do stuff. Now we're transitioning to ACVs, and then, more importantly, I think our battalion is transitioning to these boat assets. And
okay.
so we've got these swift ship boats. We have actually two different variants, three different variants now. And so we're the only amphibious assault unit that's got this capability, and we're testing it, we're trying it out, and we're seeing how it would work in an EABO, an island hopping campaign. And so, like, this is all real world stuff that we're trying out all the time, and this is stuff that we're trying to work SOPs and break it, rebuild it, break and rebuild it. So I think it all comes back to our core, which is, are we fighting in an expeditionary mindset? Are we really, able to go in and be those shock troops for 30 days, and if, we're extended, we can do up to 90 days, meth wide.
Yeah, yeah.
that's what we should be continuing to focus on,
True,
is
true.
that because that's our fight. We've got
Well,
a big army to do the
it comes
rest of
down
that
to that every
stuff.
time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and we talk, the big part now is, our relationship with the Navy and being able to deploy sensors and then guard those sensors to keep them up so that our missile technology and defenses and offensive measures can continue to work. And so those, we become now a sensor defense and deployment asset. And that part of the Marine Corps expeditionary mindset, I think is super, super important. If you've read the book, it's the last one called I just read, really interesting. Um, I think it was a kill chain. One second here. Yeah, so The Kill Chain by Christian Brosi. Have you read that?
I'm not. I will definitely check it out, though. Tell me
You
about it.
you'll love it. No, it 100%. This is it's going to talk about a lot about like our potential fight with another adversary, and specifically in the South China Sea, and how we war game that, and then what would look like, based off of these computer modules they go off of, and what does the Marine Corps' job look like from there. So it's a really interesting read, and he's done a follow-on book that I have not read yet. But and it's not a new book. I think it's 5 years old. So, but it does take into account what we did in OIF, OEF, and apply it to what would look
That's
like in the
cool.
South
All
China
right,
Sea.
definitely
So,
check that out.
and it's a fascinating read. I listen to most of my books because I'm usually
Same here.
traveling. So Audible, check it out, bro. I'll send you the link. But
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, we got to focus is how do we get these small units, and it's like, man, NCO led units, really,
Facts.
those teams of 12 and less, really, how do we get those guys on objective, keep them sustained, or they're able to sustain themselves and conduct, whether it's a direct action mission or a defensive mission. I mean, that's I think that's the fight we should be
Definitely.
continuing to focus on.
Agreed. Okay, so I got two more questions for you, bro.
Yeah,
So,
man.
what would um, what would you tell a young officer today, man, coming into the Marine Corps? What would you tell him? What would you tell him to be focused on as a young guy coming in today? Because it's a different generation, man. It's not what we had before, and I mean information is at our fingertips.
Yep.
You know, and opinions are everywhere. So what would you tell a young officer?
So we probably have 60 officers in the battalion right now. And all the new lieutenants, when they check in, I tell them, step one, you have got to be a physical stud, period. If you cannot lead your platoon in a physical way,
So true.
I have no time for you. So
Yep.
this is why I tell you the Marine Corps has not changed. So number one, and it's the standing rule. If you are not physically fit and you're not setting the freaking standard, which means that you better be damn near a 300 on all your tests, right? And I hold no quarter for these guys, just so you know. I literally, when I get the battalion PFT CFT rosters, and I literally go through it, and I will start highlighting folks that are below. I'm not gonna tell you what numbers, but below
Okay.
certain numbers, and
Yeah,
they get
yeah.
a call from me. I'm like,
Gotcha.
hey, really?
Yeah. Nice.
No. So the number one thing I tell the first guys checking in, or if they're taking over, and a key billet, like a company commander billet, or or they're going to have direct action with a team of guys, is fitness. You've got to be a physical stud. Period.
It's true.
I'm 40. I'm 42 years old, and I get it in harder now even than I did when I was a deployed lieutenant.
Yep. Of
Not because I was lazy then, but because I have built up my body and
course.
my,
Of
where
course.
I am, and
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
you know, so and then I said, look, and part of that is I just think you should be doing some sort of combative sport, because
So important. So
if you're doing a
important.
combative that is not sport related, then you're not training hard enough.
Facts. Facts. I didn't realize
And
that till recently, dude. So I started doing jits, dude, and it's such a big deal. You're right. You're right.
I mean, dude. Like, I mean, you and I talked because you were like, I think you had like your first or second class when we talked about it,
Yep.
and I'm
Yep.
like, man, it's gonna change your life, because it has.
Yeah.
But I love following the McDojo people, because it's always like, oh, in a real fight, oh, this and that. But there's a couple of really interesting guys on the interwebs that are they're legitimate athletes, and they're like, well, if there is no competition involved, then you're never training hard enough. And I can tell you, like, I rolled last night at my gym, and I I probably had 8 different 5-minute rolls. Like I did like 2 or 3 more than I normally do, and
Yeah.
I feel it this
I
morning.
bet you
I
do.
mean, I
Bet you do.
feel it.
Yep. Yep.
But I tell the guys, physical fitness, do some sort of combative sport. I don't care what it is, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, something. I've got some boxers in the battalion. I've got some kickboxers. Like, I don't give a shit. If you can't stand in front of those Marines and then go, hey, the PL is a fucking stud, then we
What are
all
we
the
even
rest of the
talking
shit I'm
about?
going to
What are we
talk
even talking
about,
about? Yeah,
it
exactly.
doesn't matter. It
Uh,
doesn't matter.
it goes
So,
so
okay.
far, dude, because that's the first that's noticed by the guys when you don't
Yep.
realize it, and it not only does it set the example, it sets the standard, and it goes a long way. So well said. I agree with you completely. So okay, so final question, man. Being a successful entrepreneur as well, talk to some of the veterans out there that are maybe going down the same path, maybe starting a small business and
Yeah.
just starting to deal with some of the obstacles maybe that comes with that. What's maybe some recommendation you give them?
So look, everyone's got a great idea. I've got 50 of them right now. You've got 20 on your whiteboard. Good ideas are dime a dozen. The only thing that matters for success is showing up every single day and being consistent. And you can be the most intelligent person in the room, but if you can't be consistent, and here's the next most important word, which is if you can't execute, it doesn't matter. Execution and consistency is everything. I don't care if you're the dumbest guy in the room. A lot of times I am, and I'm good with it. The difference between me and then I think a guy that got an MBA from Wharton is like I will grind that fucker out. Like I will 100%. Um, that is how you're successful in business, period. You might get lucky. Um, I'll tell you a little bit of my negativity here. Like, so as of the last year or so, I've taught myself how to count cards, blackjack. Like I can legitimately do it. I have
That's
a
dope.
EV value.
Dope.
Like I know how to count cards. And so I love going to casinos and getting asked to leave. It's just, hey, it's just kind of fun. But But the difference between a gambler and someone that's counting cards is just the grind. Like,
Mm.
because you can get lucky. You can be like, I feel like it's gonna, I
Yeah, yeah,
feel
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's gonna be an ace.
Yep.
But if you know there's a higher probability of one going, and you can move a lot bigger bet to the center because you've done the math, and it's not hard math, all it's those consistent wins, right? It is this trajectory that does this and does this and does this.
Small W's turn to big W's, and yeah, I get
Yeah,
you.
and you get the L's, but you get the L's along the way.
Yep.
But it is a graph that goes from here to here, ups and downs. The gamblers, they do this, and then but it's not real,
I hear you.
right? That's like
I hear you.
anybody can get lucky.
Yep. Yep.
So grind it out. Execution's everything. I don't care about your cool idea, and I promise you, everyone's got a lot of cool ideas.
Facts.
What I do in business is not unique, right? There is ranges all over the country that do what I do. But I grind it out, and I know my guys grind it out, right? And I focus, and when you're in a people related business, you got to focus on the people. I was insanely distracted this last year. I went through a divorce, had to kind of like refocus on some stuff that was important. And I neglected a good part of that from my people standpoints. And they knew it. And they knew that I was going through some stuff. But and so now as I'm starting to like relayer some stuff on and go, hey, let's get more of this. And I'm seeing, okay, man, we really did have a gap here. Oh, but like you gotta focus. If you're a people-oriented business that you have employees, you're not just doing something between your computer and the internet. Like, dude, most of your investments got to be in your people. But it's the same thing with the Marine Corps. Like,
Agreed. Agreed.
oh, we're a people organization. Really? Why did you look at your SRB for 8 hours
Exactly.
today?
Yep. Yep.
Instead of like grabbing your young lieutenants or your platoon sergeants and being like, hey, let's go for a run. Hey, let's go look at this tactical problem. What do you guys think? Let's go look at this logistical problem. What do you guys think? And then get rid of your fucking ego, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
and I think
Said.
with jujitsu, and I'm sure you could echo
Does.
this, is like
Does.
the ego in jujitsu is pretty small
Disappears once you
because you
get humbled.
because you get your ass beat
Yeah,
every
that's what
day.
it takes, man. It takes
Yeah,
that. You know?
yeah.
I think it kind of breeds that ego death, and then it kind of creates true accountability for oneself. You start really having that because a lot of people you notice when you are able to attain that true accountability for what you're like the stuff that maybe normal people would look past. you realize that not a lot of people have that quality to be able to look at yourself, own it, and then, maybe just find a way to be progressive about it and fix it. But if you can breed an environment where you can be accountable and fix your your little things, I mean, you turn into a certain type of individual that, I mean, almost breeds success to a certain degree.
You're accountable to yourself.
That's what I mean.
That is the
That's what I'm saying.
most, and yeah, and
Yeah,
that's exactly what you said. But that's the exclamation point everyone should be listening to, because you said it. Like you can be accountable to a boss, just like your situation with the security guards
yep,
that are in
yep,
a shitty situation, right?
yep.
But it doesn't matter, man. Until you're accountable to yourself, then you are just going to sit there and scroll on your
I
phone for
mean,
hours and
I mean,
hours, right?
I
And
mean,
we've all been there, man. Like I'm gonna call
exactly.
like, dude, I will catch myself in those problems and go,
Yep.
man, I don't like myself right now.
Yep.
This is
It takes a
so,
certain
man.
type of person to do that, though, dude, because you can lie to yourself very easily. You know what I mean? It's easy to do that and look past certain things. But when you call yourself out on stuff and actually, you get progressive and you fix them, dude, I mean, it's a good feeling knowing that you're able to do that, and you realize that, maybe it doesn't happen often with other people. But I think I just got to a point in life where I've attained that, and it's been through certain things that I've done and gone through myself, but. It's only helped me with certain things and being able to fix certain things in my life and make them better. So I mean, yeah, I think exactly what you just said. True accountability to oneself. That's a big one right there. Absolutely.
Dude, you hit on something that I talk to my guys about all the time, which is like, don't we the person we lie to the best isn't your spouse, isn't your mom, isn't your kids, isn't your boss. The person you lie to the best is yourself.
That's very true.
And so I tell my guys all the time, like, hey, are you believing your own lie?
That's
And so I ask
so
myself that all the
true.
time.
It's
Like,
so
am I believing
true.
my own lie? Can I really pull this off? Or am I just telling myself, the best possible way to get this thing? And
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, no, man, you know what? That is a lie. I am lying to myself. Like, you
Yep.
dumbass, you know?
And it's not
But
an easy thing to do because you have to be okay with like feeling bad, you know what I mean? Realizing that maybe this isn't right, and but you have to always make sure you always come, don't beat yourself up all the time. You got to always come with something with a solution, because there's always something you can be progressive about, and you can fix, most things with just a little bit of extra added effort towards it. But I hear you completely. Yep. And that's a big thing. But other than
so
that,
you're close now, man. So we gotta hang out in person. So
absolutely.
I need to come up and play blackjack with you or
Yeah,
something, or you
absolutely.
need to come
Anytime,
come
man.
to my jujitsu gym and
Facts,
let's do
facts.
it.
A roll or two. But other than that, man, do you got anything you want to plug, or you want to say anything to the vets out there? You want to plug anything? Go for it.
I would just say, look, we hit on it just a little bit, but I think the important thing is, look, Marines have not changed. We're still Marines, and I've been in this gun club for 17 years now, and it's no different, man. Like we can get caught up in the politics of all this, like, oh, they're not as hard as they were. They haven't done this, like, they're woke. No, man, a Marine is still a Marine, is still a Marine, and and I owe this to you at this point to say, look, I will not. I will not let that standard go,
Here,
fall to waste.
love to
And
hear it.
and I'm just one dude. In my battalion,
That energy
there's just some
spreads, bro.
incredible leaders.
That
But
energy
but it
spreads.
is
Yep.
everyone of them. I promise you that. And I know every other guy that I serve with in uniform feels the same exact way. So that's my only parting thing. I've got nothing to pitch. I'm not telling anybody anything.
Gotcha. Love
Just
to hear
just
that.
hey,
Love
we're
to hear
still here. We're ready for the next fight.
Love to hear that. Well, there you have it, guys. Episode 201. Lieutenant Colonel Nishan Campbell. He's over at Gunfighter Canyon, the premier range out in Arizona. So be sure to check him out on Instagram. And what's your tag again, bro?
It's gunfighter underscore six.
Okay.
Gunfighter underscore six.
And then, do
Yeah.
you have anything you want to talk about Gunfighter about? Anything new coming up, or anything?
Yeah, so I will say, like, so we've got locations in Williams, Arizona, Page, Arizona, and we've been in construction on our new location in Flagstaff. So I'm super super stoked to have this project back on track here in August, and it will be an amazing facility. I'm excited to have you come out and check it out. I mean, you're only a 4 hour drive away now
Definitely,
at this point.
definitely make it happen.
So we're gonna, a full 10 lane indoor range, classroom, the
Awesome.
whole shebang. I've got rappelling towers. We're gonna have jujitsu
So,
mats. It's gonna
so
be a super, super cool place. So I'm gonna invite everyone out to come check it out once we're open.
good.
It'll be sometime this winter.
Happy to hear it, brother. Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
Episode 201, Nishan Campbell in the building. Pleasure to see you, man. And I hope you stay safe and semper fi, bud.
Thanks, Nick.